Welcome back everyone, it's that time of the week where we cover CK3's newest dev diary called The Greatest of Them All. And yes, it's a video, not a short. I promised a video last time but failed to do so hopefully this makes up for it. First things first on our list is the greatest of Khan's decision. Now this decision isn't new to CK3, but it is new in the way that they've changed it. Once you've completed the long list of prerequisites, sure, you've stated that you're the greatest of all Khans, but do you have the balls to prove it? As soon as the decision is taken, everyone around you who is not your tributary or vassal will immediately start a war against you, mainly because they need to prove to you that you aren't worthy of such a title. Also, be prepared to fight the Byzantines or China once that's added at the end of the year, so be ready for that. If you fail to prove your worthiness, well, you'll either be arrested or killed or both, it really doesn't matter to them. But if you manage to fight back against the vast enemy hordes that surround you along with the powerful armies of either China or the Byzantines, you will truly claim the greatest of all Khans title. With such a title you are given prestige, legitimacy, a new nickname you can choose such as Genghis Khan, new casus bellis, and an overpowered army of nearly 20,000 men. But the gifts don't stop here. You'll also get the decision to offer submission or ruin to nearby rulers or nomadic leaders, where sure, they can submit peacefully and everything will work out just okay for them, but if they decide to decline your peaceful invitation, well, to be honest, they have nothing to worry about, it's fine, they'll be fine. It's just that their entire family, friends, vassals, and everything else that they hold dear shall be destroyed. Hey, they could have just joined peacefully. But if you don't reform the Great Khaganate in time, you'll lose access to some special privileges given to the Great Khan. However, if you do take the decision, you lose the ability to offer submission or ruin, which I think is kind of a bummer. You do get compensated by getting new de jure lands to conquer, the ability to stay nomadic or choose another type of government system other than tribal, and a whole lot more though. But with that, we move on to the other parts of this dev diary, such as the yurt. The yurt is where a nomad will focus on building up their herd, their armies, and everything else they need to make a living in the steppe. You can choose to focus on buffing out your armies, create a movable market to bring in additional wealth, increase the herd size, and much more. Just think of it as a movable way to play tall. And based off new cultural traits, you may even be given access to new units. More on that in a bit. Along with the Stargazer court position that they also mentioned in previous dev diaries, they've also added a few other positions such as the Ck3's, which focuses on increasing your control and legitimacy, the Boyan, who'll increase the rate at which your herd is converted into horse riders, the Yurchi, which lowers the maintenance cost for your armies and the building construction time, the Keeper of the Horses, which basically increases your herd gain and capacity along with trade speed, the Siege Engineer, who obviously reduces siege time, which you'll see why that's important, the Cherby, who will increase the toughness of your men, and finally, the Foreign Emissary, who will increase your profits, monthly prestige, and court opinion. Yeah, that was a very long list. I'm sorry about that. Now, seeing as you're nomadic rather than a feudal or clan ruler, or technically administrative as well, you don't have access to the usual council. Instead, you have the Kurultai, which is very similar to the council, but slightly different. Here, the only thing that is still the same is the Spy Master. Your assassins will be with you always. But you do gain access to 4 new types of Kurultai members, which lets you choose between where you want them to specialize in. Unlike counselors, they're not bound to the position type. Instead, they can focus on any of the 8 new tasks based on diplomacy, martial, stewardship, and learning. Increased control in domestic affairs make up 2 of the 8 tasks, so they were brought over. The other diplomacy task is called support herds, which does what it sounds like, increasing your herd potential. The secondary martial task called Organized Raiders makes it easier and better to raid your neighbors. The 2 stewardship tasks are called Manage Fertility to keep managing the soil for your herd, and Exploit Lands, which helps you take out as much out of the fertile lands as possible before you have to move on. Finally, the last 2 learning tasks are Aiding the Stargazer, which increases their monthly piety and learning, and Explore Cultures, which helps you hybridize with the cultures around you. What's cool is that some of these tasks can be completed by multiple Kurultai members, but others such as Organized Raiders, Aid Stargazer, and Explore Cultures can only be done by 1 member at a time, mainly because it'd be too overpowered for you to stack the bonuses they provide.
It's like my Uncle Kagi once said, with great power comes great big boots.
Exploit Lands and Manage Fertility are also province specific, so if you're increasing the growth in one area, you can't also be bleeding it dry. You gotta do that somewhere else. With the politics out of the way, we can move on to the decisions you can make. the hunt activity has been adjusted for nomads mainly because of how important it was to their culture. Rather than just giving you legitimacy, prestige, and stress loss, you can also gain additional dread, prowess, and a new modifier called stalked meat, which will be useful for the new type of feast you can hold. As for the reason for the new modifiers, well, nomads trained in their horse riding style for wars through hunting, and if you're able to take down dangerous beasts such as bears and wolves, you're basically just showing off how deadly you are. So expect to be invited to many hunts, and honestly, take advantage, it's free prowess. Building on the hunts, there's a new type of hunt called the Nurge, not the nerd, the Nurge, which calls upon many hunters to take out as many animals as possible, and can give you even more dread or obedience, whichever you choose. If successful, not only do you gain prowess, but can even get commander traits, which is just a beautiful cherry on top. But now that you've killed all those deer, bison, and rabbits, what are you gonna do with all that meat? Well, lucky for you, there's just an event to deal with that. Introducing the Sakinsar, a wintertime festival that helps start off the new year, and as a host, you can choose what type of gift you receive, while as a guest, you can send a gift. Aww. During the celebration, you can race against others, throat sing, and best of all, you can go gambling! At the end of the festivity, you will honor one of the 12 animals associated with the year you're in, and get special bonuses. Now, it wouldn't be a cool DLC if it didn't come with brand new buildings, and sure enough, we have some. You can construct a pleasure dome, which does exactly what it sounds like, and yes, I know what you're thinking.
Let him cook! Let him cook now! Let him cook! I said let him cook!
And gives you the ability to summon beautiful courtiers. Don't get too freaky though. There's a special building, well not really a building, more like a special mountain, known as Burkan Khaldun, which was said to be the birthplace of Temujin, and if you happen to control this mountain, you also control the renown, piety, and fertility based bonuses. So, let's say you happen to control a great quantity of a region that is not part of the steppe. You'll be allowed to take the decision to expand the steppe into the new lands, making it easier to migrate into more fertile lands. Maybe even France? We'll see. Now, if you're the type of person who wants to play as a nomad, but want to play as a character that comes from somewhere else entirely, you can choose to become a nomad, and immediately hybridize with the local culture and live the nomadic life you've always dreamed of. Just be careful, because when you do, you'll convert some of your provisions into a herd, and if it so happens that that herd belonged to someone else in that province, you can either be asked to become a tributary, or be forced to fight for it. Nomads also gain access to 2 new Casus Bellis, one of which is called the Humiliation CB, that allows you to test the power of another ruler with a higher dominance level, and forcing them to lose a dominance level if they lose that war, along with giving you prestige, some of their herd, and maybe even making some of their vassals more disobedient. The other CB is called the Retaliation CB, and can be used for those pesky nomads who don't respect the tribute system, and allows you to make them into a tributary if you win. Moving on, we've also got the ability to call forth new courtiers for your vast new positions, and new schemes to steal herds from your rivals. Finally, we come to the cream of the creme of this dev diary, the newest cultural traditions and men-at-arms. For Mongolians, they now start off with having Wolves of the Deep Steppe tradition, giving modifiers for their archer cavalry, herd conversion speed, prowess, and the new unit called the Magudai, which, not gonna lie, has a pretty decently high attack damage and pursuit speed at the cost of defense, so maybe not so great as a unit you have multiple regiments of. For the Turkmen and Oguz cultures, they are given the Iron Cavalry tradition, increasing their cavalry defenses at the cost of herd conversion, but are able to recruit the awesome looking Cataphract archers. Cataphract archers are heavy cavalry rather than archer cavalry, allowing them to push back against the Mongolian hordes. However, in the northern areas of the map, where tribal and nomadic lands intertwine, some cultures such as the Buryats and Permians start off with the tribes of the north cultural tradition, which allows them to deal with the cold environment and the new Siberian permafrost modifier at the cost of development. But be warned, it does state that the cultures with this trait can adopt feudal ways or adopt feudal ways through liege, so I'm not sure how bad this is. This trait does however unlock the Maturkan warriors, which are another winter-based unit that do well in the hills and mountains, but are slightly worse than Vigmen, so hire them at your own discretion. They've also made changes to the Pastoralist and Stalwart Defenders traits to be more in line with their nomadic counterparts. As for the rest of the men-at-arms, let me do this fast for you guys. We got horse riders, good for skirmishes. We got the good old horse archers. We got step riders, a light cavalry alternative with hella advantages. For your siege units, we got a pretty weak torchbearer that doesn't do too much since you're meant to hybridize with other cultures for their siege weapons. Then we got the heavy horse archers that pack a bigger punch, nomad lancers as your heavy infantry, and finally, if you make it down the nomadic dynasty tree, you are able to recruit Genghis Khan's mighty horse archers, the Keshig. And boy, do they look awesome. And that's it for this dev diary, and the dev diary is covering Khans of the Steppe DLC. There's gonna be a few more dev diaries they'll release, but as for major game features, this is the last one. I'll probably cover the art one just cause man, I love CK3's art style, but until All Under Heaven dev diaries come out, this is it. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and that's it from me. Later!